today?
I'm sorry. Well,
we'd like to.
Yes, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, please.
Arthur, would you like to lead us?
I absolutely would. Hand over your heart. If you're in the military or served, you can salute. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Amen.
All right.
Thank you very much, Arthur.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Muratsuchi, and I have the privilege of representing Gardena in the South Bay in the California State Legislature. I want to thank everyone for coming out on this rainy day. I know
Absolutely.
that,
I'm just going to borrow it.
folks
I'll give it
are
back to you.
busy and you have a lot of things that you can be doing. I want to, before I go any further, give special thanks to the Gardena Police Department. Thank you very much for maintaining order. And, we have been traveling throughout the South Bay to have these community coffees, these mini town halls. And so I look forward to having a good conversation. But before we go any further, I want to make sure that we have a polite, civil conversation, that we respect differences in opinions, and that we give everyone a chance to express your opinions. And as I know, there's going to be a wide range of opinions that will be represented here today. I'm just going to talk about, briefly about several things, and then I want to open up to questions and focus on, the conversation part of our gathering rather than my doing all the talking. One, I want to talk about what things are going on in our state capital and how our state is doing. And two, I want to talk about some of my legislative priorities, things that I'm working on, and then we'll open it up for questions. Any questions so far? Okay. So, as your state representative, I want to share some of the great things that we have going on in the state of California. I mean, I'm proud to be a Californian. We have so many good things going for us at the state as a whole. I wanted to start off by talking about the good things. Number one, our economy. We are the world's 5th largest economy. California's economy has surpassed that of France and the United Kingdom. And, we're only behind, of course, the United States as a whole, China, Japan, and Germany. That shows, not only that our economy has been growing faster than the rest of the country, but also that we're enjoying a record low unemployment rate.
Thank you, President Trump.
That goes against a lot of what people say that California is driving businesses out of the state. No, in fact, California is growing faster than the rest of the country, and we're creating jobs at a record pace. We're doing that while at the same time, leading on so many fronts in terms of progressive policies. Number one, one of the things that I'm proud of is that, I believe that climate change is a global threat, and that
Lie.
I see signs saying that I'm a liar. Okay. I believe the scientists. I believe over 99% of scientists who believe that climate change is leading to some pretty catastrophic realities in the state. And before I go any further, Arthur and your friends,
I'm sorry. Half the people I don't know here, so that's very rude.
If you're not going to be respectful of, let me talk first. And I told you you're going to have an opportunity to talk. Let's be respectful.
Okay.
Respectful of
I'm just saying, you called me by name, so I'm just going to respond.
No,
I have a right to hold a sign, and I have a right to say that you're lying. That's all. I have a right to do that. You work for us, not just for me.
Right.
So please don't just target me. And I don't know why you're saying my friends.
Okay.
I mean, I have a lot of friends. Thank you. And I know
By
you
the
do
way,
too.
This is Arthur Schopper, the former president of the Beach Cities Republican.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes. So.
Thank you.
So in talking about climate change,
Thank you.
I mean, one of the biggest challenges that we're facing in the state of California are these wildfires. You know, we are seeing record wildfires throughout the state. We are, you know, it's causing so much damage. It's burning, it's burnt thousands of homes. It's cost billions in property losses, and is taken too many lives. You know, that is, you know, the most pressing example of how, you know, the impacts of climate change on our state and on Californians. And so, you know, you got to believe the science, and you got to recognize what's happening in our world. But so California is leading the charge in the fight against climate change while growing the economy and creating jobs. When the economy is doing well, you know, our state budget is doing well. I'm very proud of the fact that we've been able to restore billions of dollars toward one of my top priorities, which is education. You know, both K through 12 as well as higher education. But we still have a lot more work to do. You know, as again, as we're seeing and as we saw recently with the LAUSD teacher strike, where they're highlighting many of the challenges that our kids and our teachers and our schools are facing in terms of overcrowded classrooms, in terms of the lack of nurses and counselors and other support services that our children and our communities deserve. That is something that I'm going to continue to fight for, and I'll talk a little bit more about one of my top priority bills to increase funding for our schools. We've also succeeded in dramatically reducing the number of the uninsured in the state of California. Up until a few years ago, California was looking at the uninsured population in the state of over 17 million people. No, I'm sorry, 17%. And we have cut that number from 17 to now 7%. And so, and a lot of that is because of California's aggressive rollout of the Affordable Care Act. You know, I mean, let's recognize the facts. I mean, the Affordable Care Act, you know, has done more than any public policy since Medicare and Medi-Cal to expand access to health care. And so we need to support and defend the Affordable Care Act. Housing continues to be one of our biggest challenges. You know, all of us see the two large populations of the homeless, especially in the South Bay. I received a tour of some of the largest gatherings of the homeless populations in the South Bay, but in Harbor City on Lomita Boulevard and Vermont Avenue, right next to the Salvation Army over there, there's two large tent encampment there of people who are struggling to find affordable housing. And it's not just, of course, it's not just the homeless, but it's the middle class in California. We're all struggling with the issue of finding affordable housing. So the state of California, we're engaged in a big push to increase the supply of housing. I mean, I think it's basic economics that when you have supply and demand, when you have housing being so expensive, we need to increase the supply of housing, and we're making significant investments in that front. At the same time, I'm hearing from a lot of our local elected officials, especially in the South Bay, that we want to make sure that we build more housing, increase the housing supply, while at the same time making sure that we balance that by protecting the quality of life in our neighborhoods. Traffic is already bad. Before I was elected to the state legislature, I used to commute downtown every day, and so I know as well as anyone the realities of how bad traffic is in the Los Angeles area. one of my main priorities is focusing on extending the Metro light rail to the South Bay. Last year I was able to secure over $200 million in state funding to fast track the extension of the Metro Green Line, which right now it stops in the El Segundo North Redondo area. We want to extend the Metro Green Line further down into Redondo Beach and into Torrance, into central Torrance, where we are focusing on building a metro station at the just south of the Torrance refinery at Crenshaw and Delama Boulevard. So that's go a long ways toward getting cars off of the road, helping us out with our traffic, and accommodating some of the new housing that we're going to be trying to build. Also, I hear from all of our local elected officials that local control is important. That our local city councils are on the front lines of making sure that while we're building more housing, that we're balancing that with making sure that we're protecting the quality of life that we enjoy so much in Gardena and throughout the South Bay. And speaking of our local elected officials, I want to thank Gardena Councilman Mark Henderson for joining us today.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Councilman, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any politician would.
I won't say a lot because this is definitely your event. Thank you.
No. Thank you for joining us.
As a councilman of City of Gardena, we love to say, thank you to our assembly member. This is one of our assembly members that represents Gardena. But I want to thank you all for coming out in this inclement weather. I know you could have been anywhere else in the covers where it's warm or different things like that, but this shows that you are engaged and concerned about your community. So on behalf of the City Council, Mayor Tasha Serta, Mayor Pro Tem Rodney Tanaka, Councilman Dan Medina, Castaigne, myself, Mark Henderson, we want to say thank you for coming out this morning, and we're welcome to listen to all you have to say, Assembly Member. Thank you. All right.
Nice.
By the way, your city council meetings are on Tuesday evenings?
Our City Council meetings are every second and fourth Tuesday.
Okay, right here. So thank you very much for letting us use your city
Thank
hall.
you. We dressed up the place for everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. So I talked about how our economy is doing, how our budget's doing. I talked about some of the big challenges that we're facing. Let me go back to education, which is going to be one of my top priorities for this year. So California as a whole is going strong.
Total
Like I
lie.
said earlier, you can look up the facts. Our economy is growing faster than the rest of the country, and we have a record low unemployment rate. But we want to make sure that the California dream is accessible to everyone. There are too many people that are being left behind, and there are too many people that are being driven out of the state because they can't afford to live in California. And I believe that education continues to be the best avenue, the best way to extend the California dream to all of us. And so I, as a former school board member, as a parent, I continue to emphasize education as my top priority. One of my bills, Assembly Bill 39, is a bill that seeks to answer the question, why is the world's fifth largest economy 41st in the nation in per pupil spending? We can do so much better. While we're a big state and we have a lot of demands on our state, I think investing in our kids, investing in our workforce through education is our best way to make sure that the California dream is open and available to all of us. To that end, my bill, Assembly Bill 39, a bill that's endorsed by the California State PTA, by teachers, by administrators, by school board members, by districts throughout the state, is a bill that is trying to establish a roadmap for us to get from the bottom fifth in the country in per pupil spending back to where we used to be, in the top 10 in the nation. we've learned from our leadership in the fight against climate change that the way to accomplish ambitious goals is to set targets and to work toward them. And I believe that we need to do that with education. And I believe that all of these strikes, whether it's in LA or whether it's in Oakland or it's many districts throughout the state are starting to raise this issue with greater and greater urgency. But we need to make sure that K-12 education funding is a top priority. Housing, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but we have invested billions to build more affordable housing and to give the homeless a helping hand. But again, I want to make sure that we're balancing the housing
He's stalling. He
work
doesn't
that
want to
we're
take
doing
questions.
with protecting the quality of life in our neighborhoods. Last but not least, healthcare. We have several bold new proposals that the governor has made in terms of further expanding access to healthcare and continuing California's lead in the fight to control the ever-escalating healthcare costs and to make healthcare more affordable. Would love to hear some of your thoughts on some of the governor's proposals. Some of the governor's proposals include anything from expanding access to Medi-Cal to undocumented immigrants.
Oh, bro. No. That is unreal.
We'll hear that.
Are you kidding me?
You'll have an opportunity to express your opinion.
30 minutes later, we're still waiting.
To require, to continue the individual mandate so that we expand the
No. No individual mandate.
Which the Affordable Care Act, its record has shown that is one of the most effective ways that we have to try to control healthcare costs.
It's a load of crap.
Getting rid of sanctuary state.
Yes.
That will
Okay.
control.
All right. So we'll talk about that. I want to talk about three other things that I'm working on. One is gun violence. I think we just had a shooting of a Gardena high school student, an honor roll student, I think 2 weeks ago in North Gardena. And I read that the Gardena police is working hard on trying to find the killer or the killers. It's just the latest example. Torrance, we had the tragic shooting at the bowling alley on Hawthorne, and after that there was another shooting in Harbor City. There's just too much gun violence, and I've been looking for California. I'm proud of the fact that California is a leader in the country in fighting for common sense gun safety laws.
Oh, stop it.
And
That's a lie.
I think again the facts speak for themselves, and I challenge anyone to show me facts to the otherwise. But
Constitutional carry means a safe state.
California's aggressive gun safety laws, have dramatically reduced the number of gun killings. The rate, although we have too many gun shootings overall, the rate of gun crimes in California is lower than that of other states that have, less or non-existent gun safety laws. And so I will, stand up to defend and to fight for these common sense gun safety laws. One area that I'm working on with the Brady campaign and with the Attorney General's office to try to keep guns out of the hands of criminals is to crack down on bad actor gun dealers. Right now, there is a relatively small percentage of gun dealers from which guns that have been traced to crimes can be traced back to these gun dealers. We want to make sure that all licensed gun dealers, number one, that all gun dealers be licensed, and number two, that they're following the law, not selling guns to criminals, so that we can crack down on gun violence. Another bill that I'm working on is to fight wildfires by taking enforcement authority, more aggressive enforcement authority, especially over the utilities. You know, we're seeing growing evidence that the massive camp wildfire north of Sacramento, the biggest wildfire in the recorded history of the state of California, is likely to have been caused by the electricity infrastructure of PG&E. And there was an article several months ago in the LA Times that was talking about how, the California Public Utilities Commission is supposed to be in charge of overseeing and enforcing the wildfire prevention activities of our utilities. But in the last 3.5 years, they have failed to issue a single citation or fine for the failure to engage in any wildfire prevention activities. I think we need to, we can't accept business as normal in terms of these wildfires. We need to get more aggressive. And so my proposal is to take that wildfire prevention authority from the California PUC and give it to the first responders, give it to CAL FIRE, the California Department of Forestry and Fire Prevention. Those, our firefighters are the most qualified, and they have the right mindset in terms of what it takes to fight fires effectively, including wildfires. And so that is another proposal, another bill I'm going to be working on. Last but not least, as a parent, I'm always concerned about the use of toxic pesticides, especially at our schools. Last year there was a record jury award against Monsanto for their toxic chemical Roundup that other European countries have either banned or have placed significant restrictions on. I am proposing that we ban toxic pesticides on school grounds so that we make sure that we protect our kids from exposure to these toxins. So those are some of the things that I'm working on, but